You know the feeling. Day 1, you're unstoppable. You wake up early. You make the bed. You drink the water. You skip the sugar. You write the to-do list in your neatest handwriting. You post about it maybe. You tell a friend. You feel, for a few hours, like a completely different person. Sharper, cleaner, more in control than you've felt in weeks. Day 2 is still good. A little shakier than day 1, but good. You show up again. You tell yourself, see, this time is different. And then day 3 shows up. And somehow, it's gone. Not gone like you sat down and decided to quit. Gone like the air just left the room. The alarm goes off, and your body doesn't move the way it did before. The task list feels heavier than it did on Monday, even though nothing on it actually changed. The version of you from 2 days ago suddenly feels like a stranger who set you up to fail. Someone overly optimistic. Or someone who didn't understand how tired you'd actually be by Wednesday. If this has happened to you more than once, and be honest, it probably has. I want you to hear this clearly. There is nothing wrong with you. This isn't a willpower problem. It isn't a character flaw, and it definitely doesn't mean you're lazy, or that you lack ambition, or that you're one of those people who just can't stick to things. It's biology. It's psychology. And it's far more predictable than most people realize. So today, we're going to break down 7 real reasons motivation dies around day 3, almost like clockwork, across almost every goal, every habit, every fresh start. And then, we're going to talk about the thing that actually keeps people going long after the excitement fades. Because it's not more motivation, and it's not raw discipline either. It's something quieter than both. And once you understand it, day 3 stops being the graveyard where your goals go to die. Let's get into it. Reason 1. The starter motor. Here's something almost nobody tells you clearly enough. Motivation isn't designed to be a long-term fuel source. It's a spark, a starting engine. Think about a car. The starter motor is what gets the engine turning, but it's not what carries you 300 miles down the highway. Nobody blames the starter motor for not lasting the whole trip. That's simply not its job. Motivation works the same way. It's an emotional burst, usually triggered by something new. A new idea, a new goal, a fresh identity you're trying on for size, the mental image of a better version of yourself standing just a few weeks away. New things are exciting to the brain almost by default. But excitement, by its very nature, is temporary. It fades the moment something stops being new, and there's nothing wrong with that. That's simply what excitement is built to do. So when your motivation disappears on day 3, it's not betraying you, and it's not a sign the goal was wrong for you. It did exactly what it was designed to do. It got you off the couch, it got you started, it got the engine turning over. The mistake was never that it left. The mistake is expecting a starter motor to behave like a fuel tank. Reason 2. The dopamine drop. This one's closely connected to the first. But it deserves its own moment, because it explains exactly why day 3 feels like such a specific, almost mechanical cliff edge. When you start something new, your brain releases dopamine. And here's the part people misunderstand. Not as a reward for finishing the task, but as a reward for anticipation. The idea of the new gym routine, the new diet, the new identity you're stepping into, that anticipation itself feels good before you've even done anything. Your brain is basically saying, "Ooh, this could be something," and it rewards you in advance for the possibility. But dopamine responds strongly to prediction and novelty, not to repetition. The first time you do something, your brain lights up. The second time, a little less. By the 3rd or 4th time, your brain has essentially filed the activity under known. And known familiar things simply don't trigger the same chemical celebration that new things do. It's not that your brain has turned against you. It's that your brain is doing exactly what it's designed to do, reserving its strongest reward signals for things it hasn't fully mapped out yet. This is why the gym felt exciting on day 1, mildly interesting on day 2, and completely flat by day 4. It's not the gym that changed. It's your brain's willingness to reward you for something it already understands. Reason 3. Willpower overload. Think about how most people actually start something new. They don't ease into it gradually. They explode into it. New goal, new rules, new schedule, all activated on day 1, all at once. Like flipping a switch on an entirely new life. The problem is, Willpower isn't unlimited, and it isn't separate from the rest of your day. Every choice you make, what to eat, what to say in a difficult conversation, whether to snap at someone or stay calm, whether to answer one more email, pulls from roughly the same limited mental resource. Psychologists sometimes call this ego depletion, and while researchers still debate the exact mechanism behind it, almost everyone recognizes the pattern in their own life. The more decisions you make earlier in the day, the harder every decision afterward becomes. So when you launch 5 new habits on day 1, waking up earlier, cutting sugar, journaling every morning, exercising, meditating for 20 minutes, you're not being ambitious. You're spending your entire willpower budget in a single afternoon, all on brand new, effortful behaviors that haven't become automatic yet. By day 3, the tank is already running on fumes, and there's barely anything left to push you through even one more small decision, let alone 5 of them at once. Compare that to someone who changed just one thing, say, only the morning walk. Their willpower tank still has plenty left over for the rest of the day, so the habit survives past day 3 almost without effort. It's rarely the size of the goal that breaks people this early. It's the number of brand new decisions stacked on top of each other, all competing for the same limited resource at the exact same time. Reason 4. No real system motivation feels like a plan. It has the emotional weight of a plan, the excitement of a plan. But underneath, most of the time, it isn't one. It's a feeling wearing the costume of a plan. Most people don't fail because they lack desire. They fail because underneath the desire, there's no actual system holding things together. No specific time of day. No specific trigger that kicks the habit into motion. No backup plan for the days when everything goes wrong. Yet I'm going to work out more isn't a system. It's a wish attached to a deadline, dressed up to look like a decision. When motivation is running high, this gap doesn't matter, because motivation is doing all the heavy lifting on its own. But motivation is unreliable by nature. It rises and falls depending on your mood, your sleep, your stress levels, how your morning went, whether someone said something that annoyed you before breakfast. The moment motivation dips even slightly, and there's no structure underneath to catch you, the whole thing collapses. Not because you're weak, and not because you didn't want it badly enough. Because there was never anything solid holding it up in the first place. Just a feeling, standing alone, with nothing underneath it. Notice the difference between, I'll read more this year, and I read 10 pages every night at 9, right after I plug in my phone. The first sentence needs motivation to survive, because it's vague enough that every single day becomes a fresh negotiation with yourself. The second sentence barely needs motivation at all, because the decision has already been made, tied to a specific time and a specific trigger. One depends on how you feel. The other just happens. Reason 5. The identity gap. This is the one people talk about the least, but it might be the most important reason of all. When you start something new, your actions are running ahead of your identity. You're doing the workout, but somewhere underneath, you still see yourself as someone who doesn't really work out. You're writing the pages, but you don't yet believe, deep down, that you're a writer. There's a gap between what you're doing and who you actually think you are. And that gap doesn't close just because you showed up twice. That gap creates friction. Every action that doesn't match your existing self-image takes extra effort, because part of you is quietly resisting it, treating it as an exception rather than a fact about who you are. A temporary phase, not a real shift. On day 1, motivation is strong enough to override that quiet resistance almost without you noticing. But motivation fades fast, usually within days, and identity doesn't shift nearly that quickly. It shifts slowly, over weeks of repeated evidence, one small action stacking on another. So by day 3, the excitement that had been covering up the identity gap is gone, and the resistance underneath is suddenly the loudest voice in the room, whispering that this isn't really who you are. Think about someone who has called themselves not a morning person for the last 10 years, suddenly trying to wake up at 6 every day. It's not just tiredness working against them on day 3. It's a decade-old identity quietly arguing that this whole experiment is out of character, an exception, something that doesn't really count. That argument doesn't get won in 72 hours. It gets won slowly, action by action, until the old label simply stops matching the evidence. Reason 6. Expecting comfort. Somewhere along the way, a lot of us picked up the quiet belief that if something is right for us, it should feel good most of the time. So the moment discomfort shows up, boredom, tiredness, the small nagging urge to skip just this once, the brain interprets that discomfort as a signal that something is wrong. This must not be for me. I must not be cut out for this. If it were the right goal, wouldn't it feel easier by now? But almost anything worth continuing involves a long, unglamorous stretch of feeling neutral, or even mildly bored, long before it becomes rewarding again. Day 3 usually lands right in that stretch, past the initial thrill of starting, but nowhere near far enough in to feel like an achievement yet. If you believe discomfort automatically means stop, you'll end up stopping at exactly the moment you're closest to building something real, right before the boring middle turns into progress. The people who actually keep going aren't the ones who feel motivated the whole way through. They're simply the ones who stopped treating boredom as proof of failure. Reason 7. Feeling this decision. This might be the core of everything we've talked about so far. The thread running underneath all 6 other reasons. Most people treat their habits as something to be felt into. I'll go to the gym if I feel motivated. I'll eat healthy if I'm in the right mood today. That sentence sounds harmless enough. The truth is, motivation and decision are 2 completely different things, even though we often talk about them as if they're the same. Motivation is a feeling that shows up on its own unpredictable schedule, influenced by sleep, stress, weather, and a dozen other things you can't fully control. A decision is something you make regardless of how you happen to feel in that moment. The people who stay consistent aren't the ones who feel like showing up every single day. Very few people do. They've simply stopped asking themselves whether they feel like it. The question isn't even on the table anymore by the time day 3 rolls around. And once it's off the table, day 3 stops being a crisis point. It's just another ordinary day where the decision already happened, quietly, long before the feeling ever had a chance to vote on it. So what actually replaces motivation? If motivation isn't the thing that carries you through, what actually is? Not raw discipline either. Not in the way most people picture it, gritting their teeth and white-knuckling their way through pure force of will. That approach is exhausting, and honestly, most people can't sustain it any longer than they can sustain motivation. It just burns out slower. What actually replaces motivation is something much quieter. Systems, identity, and small proof. Systems mean you've removed the daily decision entirely. You don't wake up and decide whether to work out today. You already decided weeks ago that Tuesday and Thursday mornings are workout mornings. Full stop. No negotiation required. The system makes the choice in advance, so your mood on any given morning doesn't get a vote. Identity means you stop trying to talk yourself into the habit every single day, and instead let the habit slowly talk you into a new identity. Every small action becomes a vote for the kind of person you're becoming. Someone who shows up even when it's inconvenient. Someone who follows through. And eventually, that identity becomes the thing pulling you forward, rather than something you have to keep pushing yourself toward. And small proof means you stop needing the big, dramatic transformation to feel like any of this is working. Instead, you start noticing the tiny evidence along the way. The workout you finished, even though you didn't feel like starting it. The one page you wrote on a genuinely tired Tuesday when quitting would have been so much easier. That small proof becomes its own quiet kind of fuel. One that doesn't spike hard and crash the way motivation always does. Put together, these 3 things do something motivation never could. They make progress possible on the days you feel absolutely nothing. The system tells you what to do without asking how you feel about it. The identity reminds you who you're becoming, even on the days the action feels pointless. And the small proof quietly stacks up in the background, whether you're paying attention to it or not, until one day you look back and realize you're simply someone who does this now. None of this is exciting. It won't give you the same rush you felt on day 1, standing at the starting line with your whole plan laid out in front of you. But that's exactly the point. It was never supposed to depend on a rush. It's built to work on the days when you feel nothing at all, when the alarm goes off and there's no excitement waiting for you, no sense of a fresh start. And if we're being honest with each other, that describes most days, for almost everyone, on almost every path worth walking. So the next time you hit day 3 and feel that familiar drop in your chest, don't panic and don't take it as proof that you're not built for this. You're not broken, and you're not the only one this happens to. You're simply human, running on the exact same chemistry every other human on this planet runs on. The goal was never to feel motivated forever. Nobody manages that, no matter how disciplined they look from the outside. The real goal is to build something strong enough to keep standing long after the feeling has already walked out the door and left you alone with the work. If this gave you a little more clarity today, take a second and subscribe. This channel is all about understanding the psychology behind the habits and patterns that quietly shape who we become. And if you want to go deeper into how identity actually shifts over time, I've got a video on exactly that, right here, waiting for you next. I'll see you in the next one.